Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. One of the things I treasure from my time here at Redeemer is that we had a woman who lived until she was almost 107. She was fascinating to talk to, and in particular because in her lifetime she had literally seen things change from horse and buggy to people on the moon. I asked her once what the greatest thing was that had happened during her lifetime, and she answered, rural electrification. She saw how getting electric power into the countryside transformed the way of life there. Another time, near Easter, I asked her if they had the Easter bunny when she was a child. "Oh, yes," she replied. And then she described how they would go into the yard on the day before Easter and make a little nest in the grass. And then in the morning there would be colored eggs in the nest. I marveled how in those days that was satisfying to the children when something so meager wouldn't be enough for today's children. This is the week after Easter, and as you might imagine, I'm a bit worn out from all our Lent and Easter services and activities. Maybe you are too. So it seemed to me that we might enjoy something light and fun this week. And I thought that a week on some of our Easter traditions might fit the bill. Today we want to consider why we celebrate Easter with colored eggs. Even when I was a child, the whole egg thing was confusing. Easter eggs were brought by the Easter bunny. Now it would make sense if eggs were brought by the Easter chicken. But no, it was the Easter bunny. That's not something I can explain even today. However, the use of eggs as a symbol of Easter has a long and rich heritage. In fact, early Christians used eggs as symbols of the resurrection. The egg is a miniature parable, a hard, closed shell that suddenly breaks open to reveal life. It is clearly symbolic of the tomb and new life coming forth. The egg has been a symbol of Easter for centuries. Long before plastic eggs and chocolate bunnies, early Christians used eggs to teach the resurrection. They dyed them red to remember Christ's blood. Then they cracked them open to celebrate the emptied tomb. The egg became a tiny sermon. What looks closed, sealed, and lifeless suddenly bursts with life. Mary Magdalene knew something about sealed places. She went to the tomb expecting death. She carried spices, not hope. She expected a stone, not a Savior. But when she arrived, the shell of that tomb was cracked open. The stone was rolled away. The tomb was empty. And the risen Christ called her by name. Easter begins with a crack, the sound of death breaking. Our use of eggs also points to baptism. Our baptism is our Easter egg moment. The shell of the old life breaks and a new creation emerges. And here's the playful, beautiful truth. Easter joy is meant to burst out. It's not quiet. It's not polite and nor contained. It's surprising, like finding an egg in a place you never expected. Maybe you've had moments like that. A word of encouragement when you needed it most, a reconciliation you thought impossible, a prayer answered in a way that made you laugh. These are little resurrection cracks, signs that Christ is alive and at work. So in these days after Easter, hold an egg in your hand. Feel its smoothness, its hardness, its closedness. Think of the places in your life that feel sealed shut Then crack it open. Let the sound remind you that the tomb is empty. Let the inside remind you that God brings life from what looks lifeless. Let the moment remind you that joy is meant to be opened, shared, and celebrated. Because Christ is risen. The stone is rolled away, the shell is broken, and the sweetness of salvation is yours. That's enough to satisfy children of any age. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.